Welcome to the Kirkpatrick Podcast, bridging traditions and trends in learning and performance evaluation. Whether you're a seasoned learning professional or just starting out, join us as we dive into the Kirkpatrick model like never before. Through stories and insights, we are fusing time-honored methods with cutting-edge innovations to help you navigate the ever-evolving world of learning and performance evaluation. Welcome, everyone, to the Kirkpatrick Podcast. I'm Vanessa and Alzate, the president and owner of Kirkpatrick Partners.
I'm Jim Kirkpatrick, senior consultant for Kirkpatrick Partners.
We're so excited to bring you the very first Kirkpatrick Podcast. Jim, before we get started, how are you feeling?
Multiple feelings right now. A little nervous, mostly excited.
Me too.
Because I haven't done this kind of thing in a long time, and I'm glad that I get to do it with you. So
I'm glad I get to do this with you. This is going to be a lot of fun.
It will, yeah.
Yeah. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk all about the future of learning and development. I have heard, this is a rumor, it was on the streets. I don't know if it's 100% accurate. You're going to have to let me know. But I've heard that you had a crystal ball.
I do. I keep it kind of hidden sometimes because I don't want anybody just looking at it, because there's some things in there that are not only exciting, but there's some scary things in there too.
Oh, now is this a real crystal ball, or tell me more about it?
It's kind of a blend. I do have a crystal ball, but it doesn't really work. As a crystal ball. I just kind of use it as a prop to kind of get the crystal ball in my mind going.
Okay, so what are you seeing for the future of learning and development?
That's the scary part. The learning and development part is, if we continue to focus on helping people learn and develop them, it looks pretty bleak. And I think a lot of people are already seeing that we don't need you anymore because you're not really relevant to the workplace, relevant to the business. So that's the bleak part. But there is good news in there.
Tell me more about the good. What's the good?
Well, the good is that the corporations, senior leaders, they're eager for results. And they're desperate for results and for differentiators. And if we can extend the learning to the development to the actual workplace performance into the results, that is our future, and that is the brightness that I see. But it's going to take some different thinking and then different action to move from traditional learning, talent, whatever you want to call it, into the learning and performance world.
Ooh, I love the idea of learning and performance. It's not one that I hear super often, but I do hear a lot of people talking about performance consultants. And so I think that's a really nice marriage of the two, and a really great way for people to really bridge that past and what we know, learning and development, with learning and performance. So tell me, what are some things that can help us get into performance as opposed to just development?
The first comes from a mindset and more honest conversations about where we are and who we need to be. And back to what I was saying before, if all we're doing is designing and developing and delivering training and hoping that somehow it's going to create the results, I think it's time that we're honest about that and saying we need to do more, and we can't rely on another department or another division or supervisors to carry it into performance. We need to be part of that. And there will be resistance to that. There are a whole lot of people that are going to want to stay the course and stay tradition, say, no, that's not who we are. But hopefully there will be others that say that's who we need to be and who we can be.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but it's almost a disservice for me of the traditional model of what we think of when it comes to learning. And all we know up until we get out into the workforce is the school model, where we're just given that traditional instruction. But in all reality, is that even how we even learn?
That's right.
Yeah.
And I got a quick little story. Is that okay if I can tell you?
I love a story.
Well, this was years ago when I lived in Indianapolis, and I trained and ran a 13-mile, a half marathon.
Ooh, but...
Well, it's not me anymore either. That was a one and done.
I'm a walker.
Okay, well, I ended up walking some of it. But what happened is, the horn goes off and running, and I was kind of going a little too fast. It was kind of the adrenaline going, and then I slowed down a little bit, And a 10-year-old kid, a 10, 11-year-old kid, he passed me.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked over and he smirked. He said, see ya, Grandpa.
Oh.
And this is like 20 years ago when I wasn't a
smart.
grandpa. So I kept running and I was thinking, all right, you little guy, I'm gonna see you before this is over. And in the world of learning, we have a fast start.
Mm-hmm.
Don't we? We can get
Yeah.
people in the classroom and we can train them and we can get survey scores fast. We can get them to recommend our training to others fast. We can test them fast,
Mm-hmm.
but we're slow finishers.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't finish at all. So I'll tell you how this story went a little bit later,
Ooh.
how it ended. But I'm just thinking that the Kirkpatrick model is about, we don't start slow, we start fast, but we have figured out how to pace ourselves through the end. In other words, to get senior leaders to say, job well done.
Yeah. One of the things that I love about the Kirkpatrick model and the way that you're really talking about it and the way that we're talking about it in our own certification programs is that we're talking about setting the expectations from the beginning so you can finish, right? So if we're only
Right.
starting at that level 1, level 2, you're going to start really fast and then you're never going to actually finish. But if we go in the other order and you start with the end in mind,
Yeah.
you can really pace yourself appropriately to really get to that finish so you can get that proverbial seat at the table.
I like that, Vanessa. Unfortunately, there are many in our industry that think the end in mind is competence
Mm-hmm.
or capability or being upskilled. And so we're really, as you're saying, trying to move. The end is not that. The end is not even performance, but the end is getting senior leaders to say, you have helped us function better.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's just no better compliment for someone in our field than you've helped us get to our final mission.
And I'm glad you said that, because what I tell people in the certification programs you mentioned, and anybody that'll listen, the magic words that we need to ultimately hear are JWD, job well done.
Oh, I thought you were going to say JDK, Jim Donald Kirkpatrick.
Well, I don't have much of an ego. I'll kind of leave that behind. But
what would JDK do? What would Jim Donald Kirkpatrick do?
Do in
anything.
Well, I consider the end in mind a lot in my
Mm-hmm.
personal relationships and hobbies and my fishing trips I take with my buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And when we start to plan things, we start with the end in mind. And oftentimes I have to remind them, this is where we're going.
Yeah.
When we get bogged down in some details, it really will just kind of sabotage the whole thing. I do that with life as well as work.
So, Jim, it feels like every day there's some new tool or some new technology coming out, or an article about AI and how it's going to transform the workplace. What do you see in terms of technology and learning development or learning and performance?
Well, even though it makes me personally nervous, I do have people that know it and use it. And I'm so glad you used the word transform the workplace. Because this isn't just about transforming learning. Part of it is, but it's also available to us to transform performance and results. And I just think it's great. And I do think that the future is in technology, but our future as learning and development, learning and performance, the future is finding ways that we can add value that technology cannot replace.
Oh, I'm so glad that you said that. I think that such wonderful advancements that are happening in technology. People get concerned, are the robots coming to take over? But in fact, there's so many things that they can't do. And it's actually forcing us to really think about our role. And what is truly our role? Is it to be wizards behind the computer creating a new e-learning module? Or is it the fact that we're out there with our employees, we're out there with the people, we're learning more about what they need, and we're creating experiences for them as opposed to just one-off trainings?
Creating experiences. Say more about that.
Oh, Jim, you know me. I love a good experience.
Yeah.
And I just feel like for learning, it's all about everything. It's the holistic experience. It's all the various touches. It's how they're communicating with their manager after that session. How are they checking in with them? What is the culture like? What is, the entire environment for them in order for them to thrive. And I just can't say enough. I think that if we're not thinking about the entire experience and we're just thinking about that one event, we're missing the boat on, where we really could be doing and the impact we could be having.
And L&D and the other evaluation models, they stop short. And what they do is they think we're at the end when people are capable and confident and proficient. But then off they go. The people that have learned that and are trusting in the system, they go off and they don't know what they're going to. And a lot of times they're on their own and left to their own devices. And the Kirkpatrick model is unique by saying, we don't let that happen. We want to build the relationships that is based on those experiences. And when we're done training them, then us and others are on the other side of the bridge between the learning side and the workplace side to say, welcome back.
Oh, I love it.
And now we're here to help you. This is not, and everyone calls it a learning journey. It just grinds me. Learning journey. Enough already on the learning. This is now a performance journey and a results journey that experience and those experience continues and the people know they're not left to their own devices.
So Jim, what are some things that you think that organizations can do to help employees, learning development, learning performance employees thrive in that area and become performance consultants as opposed to just learning and development creators?
One is I think they can have more conversations about that and find others that are like-minded saying, I've been thinking about that, but we've been on such a steady traditional course that I've been afraid to say something. So I think trying to get the thinking different that we can do more and we need to do more. And then I think that you used the word technology before. I think instead of technology to continue to try and create better training, using technology to make sure those experiences are still happening in the workplace. And then I say the third thing is kind of set your job description aside if you're just a deliverer of training or a developer of it, and say, you know what, I think between the lines, I think I can take that and expand it to where I'm going to start to introduce myself to people on the other side of the bridge and find out what are their challenges, what kind of performance issues, what kind of opportunities do they see, both from a tactical and strategic point of view, and start to interact with them and create those relationships that can really then drive and leverage the learning into true performance and results.
Oh, that's going to be a whole future podcast episode talking all about relationships. We've got a lot of really great things coming up. However, you know me, I love a good story. I need to know what happened. Did you finish?
Well, I did finish. That was good. But the thing that motivated me, the experience that motivated me was that little guy that passed me and made a comment to me. And I kept in his baffles the whole way, and here it is, 6 miles, 7 miles. And he had no idea I was behind him. I was maybe a half a mile behind him, but I kept seeing that red shirt of his. And that motivated me to stay the course. And with about a mile to go, I'd made my move. And I finished strong, and he didn't. He was kind of petering out. I went by him. Sorry, Junior. See you at the end. And I went on, and I was so happy that I beat him, even more so than I finished. Of course, he looked at me like, who's this guy saying that? But it's the staying steady and being the tortoise to finish the race rather than the hare that runs out of gas.
I love it.
It's true.
Yes. So I think the big takeaway from today is really talking more about and really thinking about how can we be learning and performance consultants and how can we expand upon our trajectory so that we can really pace ourselves to really go for that long haul instead of petering out, at mile 7.
You and I have a lot more good things to talk about too, don't we?
Oh yeah.
Good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for the very first Kirkpatrick podcast. We have so many great things that are coming for you. Make sure that you subscribe and that you turn your notifications on for future releases of the podcast. And then if you have any questions about learning and evaluation, please make sure you send those over to us for a future episode of the podcast. We cannot wait to hear more from you about what you want to learn as well. Jim, thanks so much for this very special first episode.
My pleasure. More coming.
So much more.
Good.